Joe Biden, baby. Let's talk. Again, disclaimer, nothing to do with the politics of the man. This is more just about why he is where he is. Now, everybody's going to say, just like, oh, this disclaimer is getting so old. It's pastiche! But I think that the reason that he's there, why specifically him, yeah, okay, he was the VP of Obama, yeah, the establishment propped him up, all that stuff, yeah, don't disagree with it. What I'm saying, that the reason that he is there, the reason that Obama even picked him in the first place, is he's a likable dude. There's something likable about him. Now, we're just going to try and pinpoint what that is. Why it's specifically him. Why I think actually, no, I'm going to get into polling, but like, I think he's got a better chance than Hillary Clinton, but I think that he does, and I think that the reason that he does have that is because there is something that he has that is very assuring. There's an assuring aura about him, and I think it could be best summed up by this line. And George W. Bush had exactly the same thing as well. You go back and look at George W. Bush now, he's actually extremely funny and witty. You know that a lot of that, he's just a dumb Texan, he was playing into that. He actually used to apparently have this like very yuck folksy attitude on stage of just being like, see you later, y'all, for the next installment of Corn Cob Saturdays. And then he'd get off, take off his little straw hat and his corn cob pipe, and then he's just like, gentlemen, let's get down to business. He was a lot more intelligent, and you can see it when he's on Tonight shows and things. He's just so much sharper and quicker than the host sort of thing. But I mean, you know, it's pretty easy to fucking beat Jimmy Kimmel, isn't it? But I think that Joe Biden has that same quality that George W. Bush has, and I think it is just this quite alpha trait of reassurance, this walking through the world with ease attitude of it'll all be okay at the end of the day. That's the best way that I can sum it up. When all's said and done, you can say anything to me, we can have our like differences, we can argue it out, but at the end of the day, it's all good. He's got that reassuring smile of like, no, I'm just yanking your chain. You can tell that he was quite alpha in his youth. I think it is the same with George W. Bush as well. They had these kind of walking through the world with ease attitude to life. It is a very attractive trait, I think. It's a reassurance thing. I think that the vast majority of the population is extremely insecure, and the more that you can just chip away at your own insecurities, your own little chips on your shoulder in life of, you know, like, everyone has them. I'm too short. I'm nervous. I have anxieties. And they start making that part of their identity, and so it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. These things are, you are able to lift these things off. If you are able to identify them, basically just reaffirm in your own mind that these things are just imaginary, and then just start affirmations. But the affirmations work. They definitely work, because your brain is just a sponge, and it believes whatever you tell it to believe. You can brainwash yourself into thinking virtually anything. If you really wanted to, I bet you could convince yourself to go join ISIS. Do they even exist anymore? Look, thank you, Vice President Biden, for your service in getting rid of them, I suppose. But that's Joe Biden's attractiveness. I think it is also particularly attractive to the elderly as well. It's also the familiarity aspect of it, but there's also something about Joe Biden that feels very familiar. He has like an almost family... Like, I can very easily imagine Joe Biden being my granddad. He has this instant aura where he's around anywhere of kind of just making people feel at ease and relaxed. I think it comes from a devoid of insecurity in life. That's definitely the first step to it. But the second step, and I think this is definitely true when it came to George W. Bush, and I also think it's probably true to Joe Biden, I think that they're probably quite emotionally intelligent people. Now, people are going to say that he's got dementia or something. Look, yeah, okay, he's battling against that. That's going to have a bit of a dampener on this effect, perhaps. But I think that both of them kind of are able to go into a room, and this is what all master politicians are able to do as well. They're able to go into a room and just sense the vibe, sense the mood. How are they supposed to be reacting in this one? This is something that I think was Obama's greatest strength, and I think that you can very easily put a malicious turn on it, and obviously people do all the time, and I'm not necessarily saying that 100% incorrect, but I think that there's also the other aspect of when people always say that he could just walk into a room of bankers and he could make them feel like he was just another banker. He could walk into a room of trade unionists, he could make them feel like he was just another trade unionist. A room of teachers, make them feel like another teachers. They're very good at adapting to the social situation that they are in. Now, that I think is a very important trait when it comes to politics. You can see it in chimp society. Fuck. Jesus, so Joe Rogan. He's just like, just think about chimps, man. But in everything, like from moving there all the way up to your bankers and CEOs of the world and your surgeon generals, if you are able to make people feel comfortable with you, they obviously are going to like you and they're going to trust you and they will start moving and you can start creating, patching together these coalitions. There is a feeling of comfort and assurance there. Do you, and honestly be truthful about this, when you were looking at the Democratic stage, who gave you that feeling? I think that it was Tulsi Gabbard. I think Tulsi Gabbard gave me a feeling of assurance. Bernie Sanders most certainly did not give me a feeling of assurance. He gave me a feeling of congruity. He gave me a feeling of honesty, which Joe Biden doesn't give, and that's because he is a politician, and I'd imagine that in his mind, and people like your Obamas and stuff like that, they think you have to distort the truth to get those coalitions patched together. I don't necessarily disagree with it either. But he gave you an assurance there. And if you go through the Tony Robbins fourth method, so the congruency, it's not that he's completely incongruent either. It's not that you don't get the vibe that he's lying to you constantly. You get the vibe that like he's withholding some things, that, you know, he's a bit, you know, not straightforward and everything. That's just a normal political trait. There was a vast array of candidates that gave you that feeling 100 times worse, like Buttigieg. Like, fuck, that guy. Elizabeth Warren definitely gave off that feeling, very incongruent. Joe Biden wasn't the worst on the stage. It was just that he was versing Bernie Sanders, who is, I think, the most congruent human being on earth. But there was definitely, so there was, that level of trait was fairly good. Comparatively to the rest of the field, and for politicians in general, fairly congruent. In terms of attractiveness, dude, I'd do that guy if I was a chick. It's getting into some pretty washed territory. I was just saying that, I just thought about it then. But, you know, he's a pretty handsome dude for a, 80-year-old? And sound, like the sound of his voice. He's got that kind of like a, hey, forget about it. Hey, come on. Like, I like that. He's again, that type of person. When it comes to that Bernie Sanders Brooklyn attitude, it's very like, yeah, big whoop, wanna fight about it? It's just kind of a little more combative in its own way. His one is, I don't know where he's from. It's just got that kind of accent of just like, hey, forget about it. It's like, it's a little bit closer to that. I don't want any more of this malarkey. The sound of his voice, pretty good. Attractive, pretty good. The way that he made you feel, definitely strides above the other candidates. There were so many other candidates there that made you feel like, you know, you're a loser, you're a nerd, you're a hypocrite. There was, like, Bernie Sanders, because he's just talking about the truth, and the truth is scary, doesn't make you feel very good. Doesn't make you feel very good when he's just like, we're facing a planetary emergency, I don't like our chances. Whereas Joe Biden is always just like, look, I'm just going to get everyone together, we're going to kick climate change's ass. Am I right? He makes you feel better. The ease of him. There is an ease there, and I think that is why he became that kind of, as people keep saying, like, generic candidate or compromise candidate. That is the way to get things done in life. Walking into a room and making the people in the room kind of feel like that guy's a family member. You want to be able to project familiarity to everybody that you come across. Now, this is obviously extremely hypocritical for a YouTuber to say that, because YouTubers are just playing to a demographic. That's obviously the entire game. That's all you can do. That's the format. It's all media, I suppose. The difference is, I guess, like in the business world and in politics and, I don't know, council. Well, that's politics, I guess. Yeah, good on you for being a mayor. That is, this is bad. Oh, you're not president of the United States? Well, that's cute. But, yeah, so that familiarity thing, I think, is actually very easy to replicate. Very easy to replicate. I think it is as much as having the intention when you're walking into the room. When you're meeting new people, there is always there's people that are better at this and there's people that are worse at this. There's a lot, and usually the people that are worse at this are usually scientists, no offense, but they have that attitude of being extremely awkward, and you can sense that they see a new person, and so they're trying to suss out in their head that you're a threat. You can train yourself. Fuck me. This was really scary. I don't know, I think like a bird just went like into the window. You okay? Check that out later. Alright, familiarity. Let's talk. Just, dude, hang on, one sec. Yeah, he's fine. I think it flew off. Holy shit. It is true. As soon as a bird comes into a house, nothing is more important than that. Primary school all the way to now. Every time, oh my god, a pigeon! But anyway, familiarity is actually really easy to get going when you're walking into a room, and I think that the way to think of it is just those classic stage things of like, just picture everyone in their underwear, which I actually think is just shitty stage advice, but you get the general gist. I think it's easy to walk into a room and make people feel more at ease, and the way that you do that is by breaking down in your own mind, these people are not strangers, they're just friends you haven't met. I think that you want to treat them as you treat a friend. And if you treat them as you treat a friend, all your submodalities, all your little sub-communication starts to align, and you get that kind of Joe Biden effect of like, how are you, champ? Yeah, I'm your granddad. You got that. You got that going for you. If you just think of everybody that you're coming to as basically just like an extended family member, even if it's something like, hello, Gladys, that is a little bit different to the kind of much less refined Japanese thing of just being like, oh, so a little bit to meet you when you come across somebody who's new. You want familiarity to just be built into the way that you interact with people. I think that is why at the end of stand-up shows, and I go out and meet the people, and I go and talk to them, I don't think that I have that same thing that other celebrities, even people like Grant Denyer or something like that, would have. People go, oh my god, it's Grant Denyer. Obviously, because I just don't have the same name or recognition as him, but it's also a thing of distance. It's a thing of remove. When you are on YouTube, it's a much more personal medium, obviously. It's the same thing with radio presenters. Hamish and Andy talk about it all the time, that people just walk up to them and just like, boys, have I got a story involving Dooners for you? There's that familiarity there already. You see, you know how that Hamish and Andy were always just at the peak of their career? They were always talking about how their audience was a family. And always, I think the joke was that like Hamish was the dad and Andy was the mum. Something like that. Maybe it might have been the other way around, right? But they were trying to get that feeling across. Family. But just like everything in life, you should be thinking about the intention of what you want when you're going into a situation, whether it just be like, I just want to socialize, I just want to make friends, I want the people in this situation to like me, anything like that. If you give your brain a direction, it is much more likely to happen just because you've set out that goal. And this is like, in your extension to, we're talking about 10 years in the future, 20 years in the future, 100 years in the future. The more, it doesn't matter about the time length, even if you're talking about like walking into the next room and meeting a bunch of strangers, or you're talking about where you want to be when you're 50. It's the same thing. Intention. What is your intent? I think that your main intention when you are meeting strangers is to familiarize them as quickly as possible. So I want you to think, next time you're meeting strangers, family. Unless you're trying to hit on them, then it's going to get very weird. Unless you're into that sort of thing, and I've been on Pornhub, there's a lot of that. Anyway, alright. So, before we go into that any further, but dude, how many of those are there? It's just like, stepmom, fuck, we know what's going on there. Alright. Alright, make sure you press the like button, give me more questions, otherwise I'll start talking more about incest.